Hey everybody, Will here with this week's interview chair. This week we have Mr. Robert Rothbotham. Sit back and hear what Bob has to say for an hour or so. Hi everybody, that's Will on the interview chair with today ex-professional handler, all-breed judge, Mr. Robert Rothbotham. Hi Bob, how are you?
I'm fine, Will, and yourself?
I'm good. It's good to see you. I always enjoy seeing you at shows because last time you had that hardcover Canine Classic book and had all those old ads from the early 70s. I love that. That was fabulous.
Well, I have a cupboard to my right just filled with old books that have been bound, like Old Dogs in Canada, old Canine Classics, and they go back to the 70s. And it's every once in a while, it's nice to go down memory lane and look at some of the old handlers and pigtails and how they looked in those days. I even look good sometimes.
I'd be there for hours. I love those things. All right, we're going to get ready. First question, Robert. How old were you, and how did you get involved in the sport of dogs?
I was probably in my late 20s, and I purchased an Afghan hound in 1975. And after I caught it several times after it got away, I thought, well, I'd try showing it because I bought it from some fly-by-night breeder named Mr. Bob Whitney, and it was one of his, and it was a fairly decent dog, and so that was my learning dog. And of course, Afghans like potato chips; you can't have one. So a year later, I bought another one, and then I showed it, and then friends of mine said, you don't do a bad job showing these. So I started showing for other people and showing, and then I became I called myself a weekend warrior. People called myself, I wasn't really a professional handler in the sense that I held Monday to Friday, well, Monday to Thursday, Monday to Wednesday job during the week, and showed dogs on the weekend.
That's what I remember. You used to. I don't know if you still. I think you're still working at all now.
No, I've retired. I've been retired for about 6 years.
I remember calling you the big WPRP.
Yeah, I've been in radio 47 years before I retired, right because I'm a broadcast journalist by trade. Okay. And then from there into sales, and then I managed the radio station for several years. And that was really good because I could get away because I was the boss.
Exactly.
Nobody knew.
Guy. Mr. Carlson.
Yeah, Mr. Carlson, and I could skip away, and I did. There was I can remember there was one August back. It must have been about in the 80s. One August, I think I went into work 2 days. That's when they had the circuits from Cars and then up into Blue Water and Barrie, and I think I worked 2 days that month.
It was like 28 shows in 31 days or some crazy number like that. It was crazy.
Yeah, and they say we have too many shows today, and really, it's not any different than it was back then.
I think it's more so that it's because we have more shows on one weekend. Like back then we had those circuits, but now we have there's some weekends where we have, being where I live and on near Toronto, you have 3 directions you can go.
Yes.
So
yeah, and that's wrong.
Yeah, that's kind of watering things.
And that's why when I sat on the board, we brought in the 350, and slowly that's going to stop because, like, Armprior gave up their dates. It's going to be hard to find anybody to move into Armprior dates because there's already a club on that, because there used to be 2 shows that weekend.
Right. Well, that'll make the other weekend stronger. Hey, it's sad for Arm Prairie because I've been going to Arm Prairie for a million years, it seems. But the other show, I guess, Forest City will get stronger because of it. So
hopefully,
yeah.
And the entries have been very good after COVID, and I think it's a case of people want to get out to the dog shows, and they've got all these puppies that they want to show and adult dogs. But I don't know if a year from now, if that bubble will burst and we'll be back to the 100 dog shows.
Yeah.
That's the scary part.
Yeah. We're getting a bit off topic. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yes, sorry. I get on my soapbox, you see. So
well, we can go back on the soapbox. Right now, I want to know about you. So you start off with the 2 dogs from Mr. Whitney. You got them both from Mr. Whitney?
No, I got the other one was from Telerisha Kennels in just around Guelph, and it was pure Shangri-La breeding. It was, of course, a black and tan because it came from 2 of Gerda Kennedy's dogs, and then about 10 years later, Jan Buchanan had, I thought, a beautiful Saluki. And it was a litter mate to one she was showing, which she thought was better. And the boys didn't get along. So I said, well, I can solve your problem. And I bought what was then All-Stain Sardonyx, Rudy, and he became a great show dog and did very well. And the funny, if it's a funny story, was that I was showing Bassets and I had Rudy out. And, sighthounds, they don't, to run around and find somebody different every time to show them doesn't work really well. So I said to Bob Whitney, I said, you will show my hound and I'm going to show Bassets. And he said, what? I said, it's a sport. And whenever I placed ahead of him with the Basset and he was second with my Saluki, he'd say, this is crazy. And I said, you're just going to have to work harder. And it was, to me, it's a sport. It's fun. I wanted my dog shown. I couldn't show it fairly, but Bob could. And Bob, of course, is a great sight hound handler. So
yeah, he sure was.
It just went, so it was a good year. We had lots of fun.
And then wasn't there another Saluki out at the same time that was doing a ton of winning out west?
Oh, Belsobram Jr., Sonny from out west. And we went right down to the wire. I lost, I ended up number 2 hound, number 2 all breed on the last show when Nigel Aubrey Jones gave the Belsobram dog best in show at that would have been the last show, which was Caledon at the old exhibition center. I could have killed him.
But did he end up number 1 all breed then, and you were number 2 all breed? Is that how it went?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I think it was 1 and 2, and just It was, but it was fun. It was great fun. And part of the funny story, Bob went west at one time to show Rudy, and Sonny came east with Belsobram to a show, and I was showing the chip dog, the Labrador.
Oh, the Labrador, yeah.
And Ann Rogers Clark was judging, and I won best in show. He was in the lineup. He had won the hound group.
Oh, thank God.
And he came up to congratulate me, and I said, you don't even know who I am, do you? And he didn't. And I said, I had ulterior motives to win this one. And he didn't speak to me the rest of the weekend. I don't know why. To me,
Bucky was a hell of a dog, though. He was a hell of a dog.
It was a game. It was sport. It was fun. So things have changed a little now.
Yeah. So now you skip it on to Bucky. I wanted to know about Bucky. Ebony Lane's Buccaneer Goals, right? What was his name? The Labrador.
Yes. Yeah.
How did that come about? How did you get Bucky?
It was owned by Peter Langton.
Yep. I remember Peter.
And no, sorry, I take that back. It was Peggy Donovan owned Buccaneer Gold.
Oh, Peter owned Chip.
He owned Chip, and Peggy Donovan owned Buccaneer Gold, and she lived close by. And she didn't want to send him out and leave him with anybody, so it's only a 20-minute drive. So that's how I got him, and he was a hell of a dog. Garrett Lambert showed him as a puppy and did very well with him. So, but she didn't. Garrett wanted to keep him, and so that didn't happen. So, and then of course he ended up. Well, he was always in the top 10 the 2 years I showed him, but Chip was the top sporting dog in 1 year, and he was a Bucky son.
Okay, and I love Chip. I remember Bucky.
Yeah, and I just kept until somebody says, "Well, you can't make a black lab top dog, top lab." I said, "Sure, I can." Well, and I picked. See that what happens is if you get known for a breed when you're handling, the good ones gravitate to you.
Yeah, for sure.
The good dogs want the best or the renowned handler for that breed. And so I had a choice of about 5 black labs to choose from. So I choose one. He was top Labrador, placed in the top 10. And then I did it with a chocolate because I was told you can never do that with a chocolate. and so, and the other breed was Bassets. I showed a lot of Bassets and Mo and Artie, and they were, the story behind those was really funny. They were owned by Davida Scott, and she got them all out of a kennel in Florida called Bonaparte, and she would go down and she would film 6-7 dogs. And she'd bring back, and I'd watch the old film, and I'd say, okay, I want to see number 2, number 3, and number 6 in person. And so she'd bring them up, and we'd look at them, and I'd say, okay, we're going with this one this year. And we'd show them no more than 2 years. And then we'd send them back and get another one, and send them back, get another one. But again, I started with showing a dog called AJ, owned by.
I remember AJ.
He was a big dog, and he came out of his background. His background was the Basset breeder down in Niagara.
Rosemary?
He was a judge for Rosemary. No, not Rosemary. No. Gosh, got terrible. Her husband judged for a while down in Niagara area. But anyways, he came out of there. And I did so well with him. That's how I got the others. And they just kept coming and coming.
Yeah. I remember Bassets. You were hard to beat with Bassets.
Yeah. Judy Taylor once said to me, because I showed a brace of Bassets, never been together again, put them together and away we went. And she said, you showed 2 of those better than most people can show 1. And I said, double the fun.
Well, they are. They're a difficult breed to show. I remember when I talked to Brian Martin about it. He's the Michael Jordan of Basset Hounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We ran into each other a few times.
So. I'm sure. He's quite a character. But he told me it's a difficult breed to put together.
Yeah. Well, people try to make them straight in the front. And they're supposed to have that, a little bit, but not as much as some. But.
So who do you consider your mentors in the sport then?
Oh, of course, Mr. Whitney is probably my biggest mentor in overall.
Yeah.
In when I started to judge, when I was handling and Bob was handling, we'd set up fairly close together. Bob's job, basically, because I was a little bit of a hothead at times, very competitive, good, but a little bit of a hothead, and he would cut me off and say, just go sit down for a while. Don't do it. So he kept me out of a lot of trouble. I was able to keep showing without any suspensions because of Bob. And in Salukis, it's Jan Buchanan was my mentor in Salukis, and of course Bob in Afghans, and it's funny because I took a lot of handling classes from John McNichol.
Oh, yeah.
John.
Yeah.
And to me, he taught me so much, not necessarily about dogs and handling, but he taught me how to concentrate while you're in the ring. Because people don't realize it's just to get in and run around. No. When you go up and back, really focus on keeping that dog straight. Focus. Don't just run up and back. And he was the one that taught me that. And he taught me a lot of things about handling that really, really helped. And of course, Archie Warnock, his sidekick there, he just kept making my life miserable.
John was a very good handler.
Yes, very, very smooth, very quiet.
Yeah.
But in those days, too, the handler, I guess today too, if you had a problem or a problem dog, the other handlers would say, "Here's what I would do," or "Have you tried this?" or and they would help you out.
I think that camaraderie is still there. It may not be as evident as it was. I think it was more so back then where we all would go for dinner. And I remember being a kid and being at dinner with everybody, So it doesn't happen as much anymore.
No, and that's a shame.
Yeah, it's true. How long did you show dogs professionally? When did you stop?
I stopped when I applied to judge, and now you're going to ask me when that was, and I really can't say. I've been an all-breed judge for probably 6 or 7 years, so 12 years, maybe 20 years ago, I stopped, and I handed all my stuff over to my daughter and said, "Away you go," because she was thinking of it. And she decided, no, I love the dogs, but some of these people are weird.
Well, we have our special ones. So when you start,
we have some. I had some great clients, and a lot of my clients didn't have money, and I didn't charge as much as some of the other handlers because I wasn't making a living at it. I had a paycheck at the end of the week before I even went out on the weekend. And to me, every cent I got, I'd buy a bigger trailer, I'd buy a new truck, I'd buy generators, it was just a game for me and a fun game.
Sure.
Like old timers hockey I played, but that was in the winter. So. And
you were a goalie as well as I was a goalie.
Yeah, I had my old Kaniski pads.
Mine were DNR. Remember DNR pads?
Yeah. But Kaniskis were handmade down in Hamilton.
Well, it's amazing. I don't know if you ever lifted up a pair of pads now compared to our pads?
Oh, they're light. They're
light as a feather. I remember going to the Brad Park Hockey School, and because I was a goaltender, I forget who was in charge of the goaltending, but they used to make us play soccer in our pads, strengthen our legs. You could do it now with today's pads.
And then you'd perspire in them, and they'd get heavier and heavier. Yeah. And I used to joke. Oh, now we're off topic again. I used to wear pantyhose, because it was wick kind of the perspiration, and they wouldn't get as heavy. And they only came up to the knees in those days. They didn't come up to up to your torso, the way they do now.
Well, I know you dropped your knees and you exposed that whole upper thigh, and you were bruised for months.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but little I'm sorry, guys.
Here we go. Yeah.
So you started judging, you want to say 20 years ago then?
Oh, yeah.
Who was your mentor in judging?
Mr. Whitney. He was my sponsor and my mentor, and he's a very, very good person to be a mentor. If anybody, because he doesn't just sign the paper. He would go and watch me judge, and then he'd call me over and he'd say, "Why did you do that?" I said, "Sounds like a good idea at the time." Because I'm having so much fun that I sometimes forget that the exhibitor who I'm placing fourth is probably not having as much fun as I am, because they were kind of hoping to be higher up. And I can remember even when I showed, I had some of my owners when they bred dogs, they put my name on the litter because I applied to become a judge through the rule, not as a breeder like a lot of them, but as my involvement in purebred dogs. And so they put my name on litters in case I needed breeding things, so requirements.
Sure.
And I can remember in Ottawa standing in the ring, and the judge gave me first with my Labrador, and I turned and I looked, and I said to the girl showing this stuff, I said, if I was judging, you'd be up here. That's a very nice dog. She says, well, you're just saying that because you bred it. And I looked, I said, no shit, I breed good stuff. It was one that Peter Langton had bred and put my name on it, but I didn't know. So it was funny things like that, yeah. But as far as mentors in judging goes, it's primarily Bob that's kind of kept an eye on me. And
well, you guys have been the Bob and Bobs for how long? That's how we recognize you both, Bob and Bob, right? They're coming the Bobs. Right?
Yeah, well, and we used to have the Bob and Bob trailer repairs, which we used to do at the shows, because anybody had trailer problems, they came to Bob Whitney and me, and we go over and fix them, type of thing. But no, and we're involved now in the three clubs I'm involved in. Bob's involved. Bob and Elaine are involved in all three as well. Yeah. So
well, you guys are a force now. Well, you're always a force, but you know what I mean. So you've been judging for 20 years. Not talking about dogs that are being campaigned now, but what are some of the dogs that you've had the pleasure of judging that have stuck in your head, in your mind's bank, that you can talk about? Like, is there a dog out there that you judge that you think, I wish I could have shown this dog, or I wish I could have been a part of this dog?
Not dogs that I've judged as much as dogs that when I was competing that I, like this, Mustache and Dolgarth, I always wanted to get my hands on them. Because I just thought they were magnificent animals. It's hard to say, because I look at dogs and I don't say I don't covet other people's dogs in that sense. But as far as I can tell you, a lot of dogs I didn't like, that were doing very well. No, but you hear about a dog and then you see them in the flesh and you say, I don't know. And that's just before I was judged. I never judged McCammon Marquis, but I never liked him. I thought he was huge. But he was a great dog, great sire. He goes back. So, what do I know? And that's my favorite. What do I know?
It is. I always have fun showing you.
What do I know? I put a dog up because I like the dog. I don't play politics. There's a reason I do everything, but it's not always what people expect.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're out there for yourself, really. I have to tell you, every time I show you, I always have fun in your ring. So,
well, there's too many that don't have fun, and if you get a novice in the ring, you better be able to put them, at ease.
Oh, for sure.
My classic line all the time is, they say, "Oh, this is my first time." I say, "Oh, we're going to get along because this is my first time too." It's just what I can remember. Some of the times that I went in the ring and I was just petrified when I first started the show under people. Like one of the first times I went in the ring was under Sam Back.
Oh, yeah.
Out of Toronto. Oh, and I thought, everyone said, you better watch Sam Back. Oh, he's. But I went in, showed he was a gentleman. He was lovely.
Yeah.
So, it's whether they spot you as somebody that should be shot. we want to stop him early from this sport. And I don't know.
Over the years, you've had a lot of big wins on your dogs. We talked about Rudy. We talked about Buck. Is there one that stands out? One that stands out you reminisce once in a while about, or?
I wasn't showing the dog. It was my dog. It was the Saluki, Rudy. He won 2 out of the 3 bests at the old Metropolitan Show.
Oh, yeah. That was a big deal.
And I got not an email, it was a note saying, because that's when the year he was running against Sonny, and they said, well, goodbye to Sonny. Well, he wasn't quite done with me yet. But, and the other one was when he came out of retirement. Vancouver had the expo show.
Yep.
The big expo show with all the money. So he came out of retirement, and Bob took him down there. 2 specialties, 2 best in shows. He 6 groups or something. And that was probably one of the great weekends. But I can remember, like, the first time when I started to show Rudy, and I kind of got him because I was struggling to win best in shows. I know I got to get a dog that'll win me a best in show. So when I got him, I started the first time out as a special, and he was 18 months old. And it was at Pine Ridge when it was held down in Grafton. He won all 3 best in shows. He went to Peterborough, won 3. Went to Cars and won 2. So he had 8 best in shows in a row on that circuit. And I thought, this is easy. not so much, But he did okay, and he got me where I wanted to go, and he was a good dog. But again, I showed him way too early. 18 months in a sight hound, they're not developed.
I know, but you come out at 18 months, 8 best in shows in a row, you strike while the fire's hot, right?
Oh, yeah, you just keep showing them and that. And then I put them away for 2 months. Brought them back, So, yeah, it's those were the exciting wins when I was doing that.
Well, now, what about judging? You've had a lot of assignments around the world, in Canada and the States. What assignments stick out to you?
I love judging in Australia and New Zealand. I did a beautiful assignment of nice hounds down in New Zealand, a hound specialty. They were just beautiful hounds. I think I ended up putting up a foxhound that everyone said, where'd that come from? Because they had their Afghans but their Afghans were totally different than what I like. And I find that in certain countries you go, like I've been to China, Korea, New Zealand, Australia, the States. Overall, Australia has some pretty nice dogs, generally. But if you want to see certain breeds, like if you want to see Salukis or Sighthounds, go to Scandinavia. They're beautiful. And I went to the World Show and I watched Salukis for 3 hours. And in the end, I thought, I can take any one of these. They're that good. There's little pockets. And there's pockets in Canada.
Oh, for sure. I remember we had moments where Shih Tzus were the best in the world. There's no question. Yeah. Because the competition was so good with Luke and Wendy and Marilyn Corbett and Mrs. Brown, all those dogs. They just show up, and any dog will win the group.
And that's the way it was in Labradors in the 80s. Like the Americans were coming up to buy Canadian Labradors because, somebody like Ann Rogers Clark's put up a Buccaneer Gold. or a chip dog up here, and of course I think the judges talk. And you should see the Labrador I put up in Kent, and before long, the Americans were coming up to get, Labradors from Canada.
Country of origin.
Country of origin, yeah. Well, that's debatable.
What advice? Let's start off, since you wear two hats. Start off with handlers. What advice would you give an upcoming young person that wanted to be a handler?
Be truthful. I find most of them make up their stories, and they're trying so hard to appease the client.
Yeah.
Just tell the client the truth. I once told Peter Scott, because he said, my dog didn't show very well today. And I said, Peter, sometimes the dogs don't show well, and sometimes we don't show them well. And he laughed, and he says, that's so true. And I've come out of the ring and I've said to owners, I really didn't do a good job with your dog today. It wasn't the dog's fault. Don't blame the dog. It's me. I just wasn't on top of my game, or I had something else on my mind, because I was bad. If I was in the ring with a dog and something was going on in another ring with another one of my dogs, and my daughter had it or somebody else had it, I couldn't divest myself of that. I kept wanting to be on both.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do justice to both. So, but they've got to be honest to their clients and look after the dogs. I hear some horror stories sometimes, and it just rocks me. I can't understand it. If you're in it for the dogs, be in it for the dogs. Don't be in it for yourself.
Right. They can't be a means to an end,
And I think a lot of the young people that help handlers, they just want to be stars. Some of them like the dogs, and I think those are the ones that are going to make it. The ones that like the dogs, the ones that just want to be in the ring and be a star, they don't last.
No, you're right. I agree with that. And like I remember when I worked for handlers, there were sometimes I worked for free, just because I wanted to be there.
But you didn't tell me that the time I paid you. Jeez.
Well, I was a little older then,
Well, yeah. Well, I didn't use you often as an assistant, but whenever I went to Belleville, I needed help, because it's a local show, and I always had so many dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite story with Belleville is that I once had 22 dogs entered in Belleville, and at the end of the day, I had to look after none.
Because they all went home.
All went home.
Yeah.
22 went home. And I thought, this is the way dog shows should be. I went out, had a good dinner, relaxed, chatted with people. Didn't have to go back and X them or anything. And I got up the next morning at 7 and watched them filter in. I said, this is the way dog shows should be. But I was illusioned. It didn't happen.
No, not consistently. So let's twitch hats now. What advice for upcoming judges?
Study, study, study. Read, read, read. Get an image of what you want in a particular breed, and never forget that form follows function. And like my sporting dogs have to have good bites. They're going to bring birds. My hounds have to move, especially my sight hounds. They've got to be true in their gait, because otherwise they're not going to go anywhere. Same with my working dogs. I like a very athletic working dog. Sometimes I struggle. You struggle with the standards when it says you have to DQ a Rottweiler because it's missing one tooth. I don't know about you. I haven't been bit by a Rottweiler, but I wouldn't think one tooth is going to make a difference. So form following function, that one missing tooth to me on a really
good, I was missing that tooth, or else
on a really good dog. Like if it's a great dog and it's a Rottweiler and it's missing a tooth, yes, you should DQ it, but it could still do you a lot of damage if it's guarding you, or so you just okay, keep going. So as a judge, you Bob Whitney says those standards are just guidelines. And to some extent they are guidelines.
Oh, for sure. Give us a there's no recipe for a good dog, that. So it's you have to follow the standard, but I think, like Bob said, it's generalized in a lot of ways.
But to be honest, you can read that standard and you can make it fit. Almost. If you want to put up a dog, you can read a standard and justify what you're doing.
Yeah.
You can't, unless it's got an obvious DQ. Moderate angulation. Well, that's moderate. No, that's moderate. What is moderate? Moderate to me is different than moderate to you.
Right.
No, it's interesting. If you look behind me, you'll see I have a Dalton collection, and I look at some of these the championship series, especially that were in England, modeled after these famous British dogs, and they're very, very well put together. And sometimes you say, okay, that's what it, and other breeds, poodles. Somebody says they got to be poodly. But yeah, but poodly doesn't mean the front end comes out of To me, when I stand back, I want to see the legs on a poodle coming below the ears, not below the jaw. So right off and these are things that, as a young judge, you don't notice right away. You don't.
For sure. You need experience, and your experience as a handler probably put so many different mind's eye images that you had.
Yes.
You had recipes to go on. So
yeah, but some of the dogs I showed, like I look at some of the pictures of the dogs that I showed, and I think, holy gee, how did you win with that?
Well, times change. It's an evolution.
Times change. Exactly, times change. I used to come out of the ring and say, magic hands. No, because sometimes if you don't know what's going on, it's good too. So the breeds have changed, and some for the better, some for the worse.
Right. Yeah.
And they sometimes get very popular in the start. And as a judge, to me, I try very hard to not judge extremes. Breeders tend to like extremes. If it says good rear angulation, they'll put rear angulation and sloping top line like this. That's extremes. To me, I like moderate, sound moving, straight moving dogs, and I think that as a new judge coming in, learn the standards. I mean, it's impossible to learn them all. I can tell you that. And go to as many seminars, talk to the good breeders, ask them what they want. But then talk to several. Don't just, if I want to know about beagles, I'm not just going to go to Will Alexander and talk about beagles. I'm sorry. I might even ask Dougie Belter a little bit about beagles, and I might go down east and ask.
Over.
and then you take it. Then you take all of these and you put it together and you form your own opinion as to what. And it's, to me, too many judges. They get caught up on one or two things, and that's the hardest thing that I have had to fight myself on. I get caught up on a minor thing and I make it a major thing. And I say it's a fault, so therefore I'm not going to use this dog. But look at the whole dog.
Right. You gotta remember, it comes down to judging breeding stock year. So, and I have found over the years that certain breeders of certain dogs will put more emphasis on things that they may have had difficulties producing themselves. So it's not an easy job breeding dogs by any means.
Oh, I've never been. I'll admit, I've never been a breeder. I bred one litter of Salukis, and they were 2 years old and still living at home. The ones I did sell, and they came back. I bought them back, and no, I didn't. I didn't enjoy breeding at all. But you point out, you talk about breeders who are trying to do something. I can remember winning a best in show under Rosemary McKnight with one of the Bassets. I don't know if it was Mo or Artie, and I said, I went into the best in show ring quite relaxed because I didn't think you'd like this. It doesn't look anything like what you had. She said, yeah, but that's what I was trying to breed.
Yeah, that makes sense, right?
And I said, yeah, but it was so far off. I think she just, who knows? Who knows what goes through judges' minds? That's the best part. And I understand you're gonna join the fraternity soon.
Yeah,
so
I wrote last week. So
oh, good. Have you got the results?
Not yet. No, not yet.
Not yet. No.
What about if you were to walk up to the 20-year-old Bob Rothbotham, is there any advice you'd give him now? No, I wouldn't change a lot of what I did. I found that I wouldn't want to be a full-time professional handler, so I liked being a weekend warrior, as I used to call it, because there wasn't a lot of pressure. And like I say, I'm very competitive. And so I would have been cutthroat. I probably wouldn't have been a nice person. But showing dogs on a weekend with a job to go back to Monday, if you lost, you did your best. Let's move on. As far as judging goes, yeah, I sit and I watch judges, and I some of the older judges who are past, and somebody that you respect, like Nigel Aubrey Jones, and you'd say, before he dies, I'd like his mind. I'd like his knowledge. Yeah.
Because that's gone. My God, it's wasted now. If I could have it, I'd make use of it. So, and there's a lot of judges. So if all of these judges who are passing would just stop and donate their knowledge to me, I'd be so happy. And I think that I'd almost become a good judge.
Robert. Well, I really appreciate your time today, Bob. It's good to catch up with you. And I may stop in, and I may drive by Belleville and give you a call and stop and look at all those books you have in your cabinet. So.
You're more than welcome, because they sit in there, and just every once in a while I'll take one out and look through it and laugh and say, oh, I remember that.
You'd be stuck with me for hours if I was there, trust me.
That's fine. We've got an extra bed.
All right, Bob. Well, I appreciate your time, and I'm sure I'll catch up with you down the road somewhere.
I'm sure you will. We'll be seeing you.
Okay, Robert. Take care.
Take care. Thanks, Will.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Bob. It was great catching up to you for an hour. If you like what we're doing here, make sure you press the like, share, and subscribe button. And if you want to get a hold of me at dogshowtips@gmail.com. Or if you just want to find out what's happening in Will's world, go to willalexander.net. And don't forget about the Dog Show Drive on all your podcast providers every Thursday. That's the Dog Show Drive with myself and Wayne Cavanaugh. Until then, take care, guys.